They say motherhood is a journey, but let's be honest, sometimes it feels more like a roller coaster with no seatbelt. I bet you're like me, wondering why babies, or teens in my case, don't come with instruction manuals. Welcome to This Incredible Mom Life, the podcast that celebrates the beautiful chaos, quiet wins, messy moments, and everyday miracles of being a mom. I'm your host, Dummy, wellness coach, mom of 3 boys, and a passionate believer that you don't have to live at the mercy of PMS, burnout, or exhaustion. Join me every week as we hear the craziest and most unbelievable mom stories. I'll be sharing the huge accomplishments and triumphs of both our moms and their kids. We'll giggle, cheer on the kids, and discuss obstacles and lessons learned along the way. If you are struggling to be the best mom you can be, how open-minded are you to booking a free call with me? You don't have to live at the mercy of your cycle, and you definitely don't have to do it alone. Give yourself permission to let me be part of your support system. I believe that you weren't meant to just survive motherhood. You were meant to thrive in it. Hello, and welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another episode of This Incredible Mom Life. Today, I have another supermom guest with me, a mother, dancer, certified Pilates instructor, and well-respected physical therapist. Alyssa Padial has almost 30 years of clinical experience in rehabilitation and wellness. She achieved her master's degree in physical therapy from Columbia University after receiving her BA in dance and anthropology from Skidmore College. Board certified in orthopedics and pelvic rehabilitation with expertise in vestibular dysfunctions, Alyssa is passionate about taking a whole body, whole person, head to toe, all between approach with her patients. Alyssa has served as the primary contributor to the development of the robust Pelvic Health PT program at the NY-Presbyterian Cornell Medical Center and currently owns a private practice addressing all head-to-toe issues throughout the lifespan, including pains, strains, prenatal, postpartum, bowel, bladder, sexual, and pelvic pain dysfunctions, as well as diagnoses related to balance and dizziness. Alyssa strives to educate and empower her patients to find balance from within, body and mind. Alyssa also sees patients in New York City, Rockland, and Westchester counties, offering one-on-one and virtual one-to-one care. Thank you, Alyssa, for taking time out of your day to be here with me.
Thanks so much for having me.
This is going to be a great talk because I have not had anyone discuss this yet on my podcast. So it'll be some new information for my listeners. All right, so let's jump right in. Tell us who you are a mom to.
So I am a mom to 2 kids, a boy and a girl. Helena is 21 years old and she's a performer getting her BFA in musical theater. And hopefully one day you will see her on Broadway or the big screen. And my son is 19 and he's a sophomore in college and a soccer player and golfer. And it's been one hell of a ride. I can't believe they're grown-ups.
Yes, it goes fast, I'm sure.
It's very cliche, but it really does. Pay attention.
All right. Well, tell us. I'm sure you have, 20 years of stories that you could share, but share one with us today.
Yeah. So I was thinking, and it was a little hard to come up with what was the story that I wanted to share, but I have had a lot of learning lessons in being a mom. So there was one that I want to share when my kids were about 8 and 10, give or take. And you remember when the Wii was the big video game that we would play, and it was interactive and fun. So the Wii had a dance game, and of course, me being a dancer, I thought that would be a lot of fun. And so we all were sitting in the family room and we turned on the Wii and it's, got music and it's got lights and it's got competition and it's physical. So I thought, great. And so my son went and he did a great job and my husband went and he did a great job and we all were laughing great. And my daughter went and of course she's a fantastic dancer. So she was fantastic and got a really high score. And then it was my turn. And I, of course, also being a performer, wanted to do my best. And I beat my daughter. And she was not happy about that. And she got so angry and she kicked me. And
Oh,
it hurt. And I actually got really angry because she kicked me, yelled at me, and then ran out of the room. And the whole moment was just kind of totally deflated. And I was pissed. And that she reacted that way. But ultimately, then I realized that, I had kind of stolen her thunder and that I made it about me. And that in also wanting to be a performer, I also wanted a high score. And I kind of forgot that she's the kid. And the lesson was in surrendering my moment to give her one. And
yes.
it was a good one. I mean, that was a really good lesson that it didn't have to be about me. It was competitive, but it wasn't about me. And the lesson in, sometimes we really can let our kids take the win, even if I did better, right? Wasn't about that. It was
Yeah.
allowing my kid to have her moment and recognizing that importance for her. So
Yeah.
that was kind of my life lesson. It's not necessarily a wild story.
But it is a life lesson. I actually appreciate that. Just last week, my son's into the Tetris game on Nintendo Switch. And he's like, Mom, have you played this? I'm like, yeah, I played it many years. I'm a Tetris queen. Like, same thing. I was like,
Dang.
I'm good at this game. So he's playing, right? And he got a high score of whatever, 12,000 something, 400 something. And then he was like, okay, your turn. And I was like, playing. Now, I haven't played, in many years, but I still am pretty good. And I think I hit like 12,200 without even trying or practicing. And he was just like, oh, that's
Right,
my high score. And you hit it on the first time. I was like, oh, yeah. So I can
right.
totally relate to that
Yeah,
feeling that you must have had.
yeah, yeah.
What happened afterwards? Did you like?
So what happened afterward was that I just acknowledged it. I acknowledged, that she was great and that it wasn't about me and that it didn't have to be competitive between she and I, that, that she could still feel validated in her high score.
Right.
And ultimately just validated her feelings of being upset and herself feeling a little bit deflated. And and yeah, so and then we played again.
Of
So
course.
and
And
I
I'm
and
sure her score was higher than her friends and this and that. So it
yes,
worked out in the
yeah.
end.
So it's just about validating, you know.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
sometimes you're right, we forget that. And, I think the inner kid in us comes out too. And it's like, I want to win.
right. That's right. We all kind of want that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you were able to acknowledge that with her and um, make future dance competitions maybe more fun and less competitive.
Yeah, right. And it's a
Nice.
life lesson, definitely a life lesson as we go about.
Mhm.
Um, and it relates even to, to us as adults, right? And even in this whole social media world of like who's doing what, and that it's not about being better than, or this competition, which is so kind of ingrained in this whole um, online world right now, but actually being able to lift each other up, and that everybody has their moment,
Amazing. Yes.
their
If
score.
everyone could have their moment, that I would be so happy. That would be great.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
All right. Well, lesson learned for sure. So you are a physical therapist who specializes in pelvic floor therapy. So first, just tell us what happens to a woman's pelvic floor when you get pregnant and have kids and things like that.
Yeah. Well, the pelvic floor goes through lots of changes over the years, and it's influenced by lots of things. There could be, just genetic features in our tissues that make us particularly bendy and loosey or particularly stiff. And so a lot of things are going to affect the pelvic floor. And the pelvic floor, just in sum, is the hammock of muscle and connective tissue that sits at the bottom of your pelvis. I'll just show you real briefly so your members kind of understand, sitting at the bottom of the pelvis. And it supports our organs of our bladder, our bowel, and our uterus. And it also supports all of our trunk and our core support and our bones. It helps hold things together. It controls our urination and our gas expression and bowel movements and our sexual function, and works in that function as well, along with other things. So a lot can affect it from above and from below, and whether it's your feet and how you're walking, or whether it's how much you cough
Oh,
because you've got allergies, or because
interesting.
you're pregnant and you're holding and housing a uterus that is growing from being a very small pelvic organ to being a very large abdominal organ. The extra weight of that, the hormonal influences, and all of the hormonal changes and transitions that we go through from puberty to pregnancy to delivery to perimenopause and menopause. So there are so many influences on the pelvic floor, and the support network can change.
Mm,
So there might be, in a perfect world, a supportive pelvic floor musculature and bony system between your hips and your back and your abdominals and your legs, where everything is really perfect, right? Textbook perfect. And so all of your bladder function, your bowel functions, your sexual functions, your hip joint range of motion, your flexibility, your jumping capacity, all those things are really in alignment, like a perfect running gear system. But a lot of times it doesn't always work that way.
mm.
And so during pregnancy, for instance, our hormonal levels change. They go from, about 30 times what they were in your pre-pregnancy state. And a lot of the hormones have influence on your support network. So how your muscles are going to kind of soften a little bit. Your connective tissues are going to soften a little bit in preparation for your pelvis to widen and spread in order to house this growing person and then to be able to deliver that baby. And so there can be disruption to the network during that whole process, which might cause symptoms that are a little disruptive, like potentially leaking urine, maybe when you cough or when you sneeze, or maybe trying to get to the bathroom and you can't get there in time. Maybe those symptoms are urgency and a discomfort in that urgency to want to urinate, or the frequency of urinating. And certainly during pregnancy, if there's a growing fetus sitting on your bladder, you might feel like you need to urinate a little more frequently. Your bowels might change. Your stool form might change, but your level of control might change in being able to hold in your gas in the elevator, or your levels of constipation, which are uncomfortable, but there's not a lot of room in there, especially when you're housing a baby. So your sexual function might change as well, both hormonally, your brain, and the effects on your libido. Your brain is your libido organ, and a lot of things change when we're multitasking, especially making a baby, but in so many other times of our life as well.
Yeah, so you mentioned I didn't know that the way you walk, if you're coughing a lot, I didn't even know those affected the pelvic floor. So that's interesting. Obviously, pregnancy because you're putting a lot of weight into that area. Um, so now what happens? This is why it's probably important to take care of your health. Um, and after the muscles are loose, and not as tight as they used to be, um, what's the first thing you tell moms who may be struggling with some of these symptoms?
Well, interestingly, you pose the question that way, like after the muscles are loose. They're not always loose. I mean,
Mm.
some of the issues come because the muscles are actually too tense. And
Oh,
very
interesting.
often, very often we are in protective mode. And that might come for a number of reasons. Maybe it's because we're multitasking and we're stressed out all the time and we're on the go. I mean, we know that us women are just super women and we are multitasking and really getting it all done. But sometimes that puts us on a mode of overdrive. And in doing so, our muscles will tense kind of in order to hold on for dear life, right? I mean, like we don't have time to let go and be, always at rest or even breathing in a really good long breath and getting our belly into it. And we're very often on the go. And so sometimes what we'll see actually is more tension in the pelvic floor muscles, and that can drive dysfunction as well. The notion that after you've delivered a baby that your pelvic floor muscles are going to be always looser, and that therefore you have to Kegel, Kegel, Kegel isn't always how it shows up. Yes, there will be, if you have a vaginal delivery, yes, there will be a stretch injury, if you will, and that will, perpetuate for some amount of time. But then it is something that returns to where you were, and again, your habits are going to play a big role in how you heal and how those tissues heal, and of course, also the mechanism of delivery and how that delivery went as well. A C-section does not make you exempt from having pelvic floor muscle issues because, of course, your pelvic floor has held up the growth of that baby for that whole time until you had your C-section. And the muscles that are disrupted during a C-section also are really imperative to the support network of the bottom as well. So it really is a whole system that needs to be kind of reminded of where it can be and where it should be, or how you're best functioning yourself.
Oh, I'm definitely learning new things today because I did not know that. Some of this stuff I did not know. Um, so how do we take care of our pelvic floor muscles?
Well, I think that the best answer to that and the best way that I think that women can take care of their pelvic floor muscles is knowing about their pelvic floor muscles and
Mhm.
understanding their anatomy and knowing their parts. And sometimes, the best tool to learn is a mirror. So many of us don't look at our parts. And so it becomes kind of this kind of taboo part of our body that, in a lot of people and in various cultures might feel dirty, might feel shameful for some people. And there are so many cultural influences on how we feel about our body parts. And I feel like the best way to kind of understand how those body parts are going to work best is actually to acknowledge and embrace our body parts and to know our body parts. We know our teeth. We know how to keep our teeth clean. We know how to look at our teeth and know whether there's a piece of chicken between them or brushing our teeth. We can sense our breath and the odor of our breath. Sorry, my dog is barking. I hope you're not disrupted by that. But our pelvic floor and our vulva and our parts are so important for us to actually know what they are, what they do. And now there's a lot more information online in order to seek that knowledge, but it's really great to actually seek one-on-one education in a room where you are in a trusted relationship and that you can actually learn about your parts. Doesn't have to always be about sex. It's actually about the support system that these muscles and this whole nervous system gives us in those parts. There are nerves, there are arteries, there are veins, there's blood flow in there. It's going to change color. It's going to change how you feel about your parts. It's going to change your relationship to a partner because you're going to feel more confident. So honestly, the best thing that I want to offer my patients when they are having a pelvic issue, or even when they're just kind of having any kind of issue in their body that does feels disruptive and feels concerning, is actually understanding their parts, whether it's their shoulder, whether it's their balance mechanisms and how their feet are working, whether it's their pelvic floor. I think that that's always the first visit is extensive education and confidence building. That's the
Yeah.
biggest, that's the biggest tool I can give.
Yep. And I start with that too, because you have to be aware of your body, right? So my focus is on helping women with their PMS symptoms. And it's the same thing. First, you have to track your symptoms and your cycle, right? And then become aware of your patterns, and then you can change them. So,
Yeah,
I'm
and
glad you said
PMS
that.
And PMS is so also so very relevant in understanding your pelvic floor because very often if you are having pain or if you're having, terrible cramping or mood issues before you start your cycle, that then also then drives again these protective holding patterns that we get through our body and through our musculature and how we're going to carry ourselves through our day. And ultimately, then that further influences your pain or your mood issues or the fact that you don't want to show up for what you need to do in your day.
Yep. All right. Now, I think a lot of moms have heard of Kegel exercises. Can you just briefly go over what they are for those who may
Yeah.
not know?
Yeah. So a Kegel exercise was named after a gynecologist from a whole long time ago, Dr. Kegel, and he basically found that when the muscles are contracted and released, but when he found when they contract and you do exercises of contracting the pelvic muscles, that it can reduce symptoms of urinary incontinence. A Kegel exercise is essentially a closing and lifting of the pelvic floor muscles. And we in those muscles as people born female at birth have three openings. One that we urinate through, the vagina that we deliver a baby through and potentially have penetration through and cycle through, and then the anus and rectum that we pass gas and have bowel movements through or otherwise. And it's important to understand that those muscles can close those openings and lift those openings so that they give support. What's really important to know is that it's also really important to be able to release and lower those muscles. So I'm going to use my shoulders as the example that when you contract your pelvic floor, you are lifting your pelvic floor, but it's really important that you also let them down. Because if
Mm,
we're always functioning up here in a Kegel range and only doing Kegels, we're eventually going to get a headache. And you can
yep.
get a headache in your pelvis and it shows up as pain, or it shows up as constipation, or it shows up as urinary urgency and frequency, along with other things. So it's important to know that you can do a Kegel, a contraction of the pelvic floor muscles, but you also need to do a reverse Kegel and lower it down.
Yep.
And an exercise that you can kind of think of is if you're sitting in good posture, you can think about potentially as your vagina is kind of like a little doorway that you're going to close the doorway, almost like there's a little, that claw game that you're going to close the vagina and you're going to lift up a little blueberry. Now I want you to be able to put the blueberry down, and I even want you to be able to smash the blueberry into the chair so that there's that range of motion in those muscles. So it's
Yeah.
really important that, it's not just about a Kegel. It's also about the letting go of the Kegel, right? So that's a good way to practice. Now, some people also will try to stop their urination in the bathroom if they'll
I've
try to
heard
stop
that. Yeah.
midstream. And we used to really discourage that because we don't want to really mess up the timing of the bladder. But if you were to just try that every now and then, certainly not every time you urinate, we want the relaxation, we want you to urinate fully. But every now and then, if you wanted to try to see if you can contract those muscles and close off your urinary stream, it would just tune you into where you are and where those muscles are. Okay. Again, that's not something to do every time you go to urinate, but you could get that feedback. Can you slow down or even stop that stream momentarily? And then can you let it go?
Nice.
It shouldn't be
So,
something where you're squeezing your buttocks. I mean, like, what I'm doing right now, you can see me bouncing in my chair. That's not a Kegel, right?
right,
It should be a secret.
right. Nobody should know that you're doing it.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, I know there's things like Kegels and things that you can do on your own, but when should a woman seek, further support?
Yeah, really, whenever something is a question mark for you, if you are having any pain, if you're having tailbone pain, if you're having any discomfort with intimacy, with or without a partner, if you are having any issues with urination that are questionable to you and disruptive, um, frequency of urination should be 2 to 4 hours that you can hold your urine. If you're urinating every hour or every 20 minutes and it's disruptive to your life and to your work, and you're constantly seeking out where the next bathroom is, that's an issue. If you're having any leaking issues with coughing, sneezing, jumping, your exercise, or if you're laughing with your girlfriends, or if you are having other kinds of urinary issues, again, urgency, frequency, or just not being able to empty completely, bowel issues, if you're constipated, or if you're having any incontinence of gas or stool. Those are all issues. But essentially, if you have any questions about how you are functioning that seem like a question mark in your life, seek out some education. And a pelvic therapist is really equipped to answer all those questions and help you navigate how to find more confidence in all of that.
I love that. Yeah, that's great.
Right?
If you have
Yeah.
any issues that you're concerned about, check them out.
Yeah, and I mean, unfortunately, in the medical world that we're in right now, in the insurance-based model, doctors don't have a lot of time to spend with you to educate you. And so, although there is a lot of information online now, not all of it is perfectly accurate. It's also hard to gather all of that information. So, I still really do believe that one-on-one individualized care is best for people, and everything doesn't have to be a pathology, but if it disrupts you, if it makes you feel uncomfortable in any way, get some advice.
Yes, awesome. And I think you have a free 15-minute consultation call that you do. Tell us
Yep,
about that.
yep. So I will, I offer a 15-minute free consultation where I am happy to speak to you on the telephone or even over a Zoom call. And we can talk about what your primary question marks are in your day and how I might be able to help you. So there's that offer. And also if anybody mentions that they found me through your podcast, I'm happy to give a $50 discount.
Oh, how generous. Thank you so much for that. So yeah, please get in touch with Alyssa if you need help with your pelvic floor and get the use make use of the discount code because I think that's helpful. Um, where can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah. So my Instagram page is head number two toe PT. And I hope you'll follow me there. You're also welcome to email me at head to toe at alyssapadial.com, which perhaps you'll note
Mhm.
there. And if you go to my website, which is alyssapadialpt.com, you'll see all my contact information there and how to reach out.
Nice. And I will put all of those links in the show notes so people can find you easily. Wow, I definitely, like I said, I learned some new stuff today. So I think, yeah, I need to go explore and learn a little bit more.
Great.
um,
Well, I'd be happy to help
yeah.
you learn as well. And although we didn't talk about my area of focus, which includes vestibular dysfunctions include dizziness and balance issues, vertigo as well. Vertigo is highly linked to hormone changes, so some of those things are relevant, but also our balance is very much integrated with our pelvic floor. They're in fact innervated by the same nerves. The muscles under your feet are innervated by the same nerves as your pelvic floor. And our balance is so crucial in how we support ourselves. So if we're going to fall, our brain is going to want to protect us from falling over protecting us from leaking. So there's actually a really important cross training
Hmm.
that we want to attend to when it does come to the pelvic floor and balance.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, this
Good.
was
Oh, I'm so
amazing.
glad.
I love this conversation.
Great. I'm so glad I got a wow out of you.
Yeah, no, I definitely, like I said, learned something new, and I'm sure my listeners did too. So thank you so much again for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. And I hope your audience got something out of that, but I really appreciate what you're doing and trying to help women navigate their incredible life.
Yes, I think we all deserve an incredible life, right?
Yes,
So whatever we can do, I mean, you're doing the same thing to help them with their physical symptoms. So yeah, I think it's all great.
great.
All right.
Thank
Well, this was fun. And to my listeners, you will hear from me again next week.
Are you struggling to be the best mom you can be? Are you fatigued, overwhelmed, and stressed out? Are you losing precious time with your family because of PMS? If so, sign up for my free gift on how to start living in tune with your monthly cycle. The link to get it is in the show notes below. Use this guide to help you start to eliminate your symptoms of PMS, increase your energy, reduce stress, and fully enjoy this incredible mom life. The way I see it, you have 3 choices. You can try to figure it all out on your own. You can do nothing and stay where you are, or you can get the customized guidance you need to thrive as a mom. The choice is yours. Thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you learned something from these stories. If you enjoyed this show, please make sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. It really helps this show grow. If you have a mom story you would like to share, click on the link in the description below on becoming a podcast guest. Remember, the content on this podcast is for general information only. It does not replace any medical advice given by your healthcare providers. Please check with your doctor if you have any questions about your specific condition and before starting any new diet or exercise regimen. Thank you, and you will hear from me soon.